You are listening to Prophet Pearls with Nehemia Gordon and Keith Johnson, exploring biblical prophecy for yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Welcome to Prophet Pearls, recorded live from the city of the prophets, Jerusalem, the eternal capital of Israel. This is Nehemia Gordon with Keith Johnson. I am so excited to be exploring biblical prophecy for yesterday, today, and tomorrow in the city where Isaiah preached in the public squares, in the streets where Zechariah spoke the word of God, in the very place where Jeremiah prophesied. But today we're doing Samson, and I don't know that he ever was in Jerusalem because at the time it was a Jebusite city.
Oh my goodness! Wow. So this is like old time. I mean, we're way back.
We're doing Samson. He wasn't even born yet in our story.
Wow, isn't that something? So we're at Jackson 13:2. We're not going to allow it to be 13:2. Supposed to be 13:2. Can't allow it to be 13:2. Why? The verse before it sets the context for why 13:2 is important, in my opinion. So can I give the first verse?
13:1, you mean?
Yes, I'd like to give 13:1.
Go ahead. You're going outside the portion.
I'm going outside. No, I learned from the best. Now let's go to this chapter. Judges 13:1. Now the sons of Israel again, say again.
Again.
Did evil, say evil.
Evil.
In the sight of Yehovah, say Yehovah.
Yehovah.
So that Yehovah gave them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. If you don't get that verse, it just seems to me like starting out in 13:2, you've really missed something important. It's just like just one day he decided to do it. We're going to get to what this is, but this sets the context. And what I like about this context is it says again that this is a cycle that was taking place. And again, it shows that Yehovah actually does something, which I have to say is a bit controversial. The controversy for me is that when I read that, it says he gave them into the hands of the enemies. I mean, so it's not like, the enemies all of a sudden grew up to have some great power or
We've
strength.
overpowered the God of Israel.
No, that is not the case. It says he gave them into the hands of the Philistines, and then it gives the amount of time, which it says for 40 years, which I think is pretty interesting within itself. We see that.
I gotta say, I can't read these stories in Judges, and this is true of all of Judges, but especially here where I hear about God giving over Israel to suffer at the hands of the Palestinians. And not tie it to modern times. Just can't do it.
What do you mean the hands of the Palestinians? It's the Philistines.
Right, but Philistines is plishtim in Hebrew, and the word Palestinian comes from, it's the same word, from the same derivation.
Isn't that interesting? You have to say that. You have to explain that. So you can't. So you're saying you can't read about that in the past and not deal with that now?
I just can't. Meaning, and there's a bigger concept here, which is that when Israel sins, God gives us over to suffer at the hands of a foreign nation. This is something we see repeat. It's actually stated more clearly in the first few chapters of Judges, but we see examples of it throughout the Tanakh. We see it with the Babylonians. We see it with the Assyrians. And here we're seeing it with the Philistines. Now, the Palestinians today are actually Arabs. And why are they called Palestinians? Because the Romans wanted to strip the land of Israel of its Jewish identity after the Bar Kokhba revolt in 135. And so they renamed the province of Judea. They renamed it Palestina. And Palestina was they remembered that there had been these Philistines in this land. And so the Roman pronunciation of Philistia, of the land of Peleshet in Hebrew, was Palestina. And later, Arabs invaded in the year 638 AD. And settled here, and there were actually waves of invasions, and there was invasions of Turks and various other peoples and Crusaders, and today the Palestinians are descendants of different waves of people who came, but they're called Palestinians because of the Roman name for Judea.
Now, let me ask you a question. In Arabic, isn't there an issue with even the issue of being able to say Philistine?
Right, so there's no pa in Arabic. So when a Palestinian tries to say in English Palestinian, unless he's very good at English, he'll say Palestinian and Palestine. Now, I should say that Palestinians, up until 1964, referred to Jews who lived in the British Mandate of Palestine. 1917, the British conquer Philistine, it was called, under the Turks. They conquer it, and they call it Palestine in English. And there were Palestinians who were actually Jews. Arabs were never called Palestinians until around 1964, when they plotted to wipe out the Jews. They said, look, Arabs have 22 countries. We can't call ourselves Arabs. We've got to be able to make an exclusive claim to that land where the Jews live. So they called themselves Palestinians.
I got to tell you something so interesting about this, and I really wish I was more up to date in what the situation was. Last year at our tour, BFA does a tour to Israel. It's our third year that we're doing it, about to do it in the next couple weeks. But there was a couple on our tour, and we went to Bethlehem, and this is actually their hometown of Bethlehem. They actually are living in the United States, have what I can say. Can I use this word? Can I use the word citizenship?
I don't know.
In the
They are.
But what's so interesting is they showed me there actually was a passport that was that said Palestine from whenever it was, and I was like, I really was going through this issue. It's like, so when did this happen? That when they're from this particular area, and in the passport it said Palestine, and I don't know if you know about that, like when it shifted or when it switched or what the exact year was where it shifted. But when she was born, and she's not Arab. She actually happens to be a Christian from Bethlehem. But that was what was on the actual on her actual passport. Yeah, on the document.
So basically, up until Israel declared independence in 1948, between 1917 and 1948, the land of Israel was called Palestine, and it was a British occupied territory. Before that, it was called Philistine under the Turks. But the people here were never called Palestinians; they were Arabs. And this identity of the Palestinians as a separate people is really something that only came about in the 60s. And really, it's an identity that's still evolving. Meaning, that there will be Israeli Arabs who are citizens of the state of Israel, and you'll ask them, are they Palestinians? Some will say yes, some will say no. Meaning, there's this evolving identity of this new people, which isn't so unusual. Think about it. There was a country called Czechoslovakia, and for 50 years or however long it was, 100 years, there were people who said, I'm Czechoslovakian. Today, no such country exists. Now there's the Czechs and there's the Slovaks. So anyway, yeah. But Israel is not some recent people from 100 years ago. We were a people that goes back 3,500 years. We were, formed in the crucible of Egypt and fashioned in the desert and then brought into the land. And then when we sinned, we were turned over to the Palestinians of old, the Philistines.
Well, let me say this. Where actually I said I couldn't start on 13.2 without going to 13.1. The actual portion begins in 13.2. And I think it's kind of interesting how it starts, because it says there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. And then it says, and his wife was barren and had borne no children. Now, I keep beating this drum, and I'm going to beat it again.
Beat it, brother.
I'm going to beat this drum. So here you read about this, and it starts out and it says, there was a certain man of Zorah. And I'm thinking it's going to be about the man. And then it drops the next phrase. And his wife was barren. And then it says, and bore no children. Well, if she's barren, she's not going to bear any children. Right? I mean, it's pretty obvious.
And what's her name?
And that's what I was about to say. That's what I was going to... let me beat my drum.
I'm sorry, yeah.
So here the story comes up.
Glory.
No, I hate when you do that. But it doesn't give us her name. And it's so significant to me, because as we go through the story, there's a lot about her that jumps off the page to me that I think I want to be able to make mention to. So we don't know her name, but we do know she becomes central to this issue, because the angel of the Lord appeared to Zorah. No.
To Zorah.
No, I'm sorry. Manoah. The angel of the Lord appeared to Noah. No, it says the angel of Yehovah appeared to the woman. Not even gives her name again. Why not her name? And says to her, behold now, you are barren and have borne no children. Now, I think children is an addition of English. You are barren and you have not borne. Nothing has come forth. Is that fair? In other words, when you're looking at this, it doesn't actually... I don't think it says children.
Well, it says v'lo yeladet.
Yeah.
You haven't given birth.
You haven't given birth. Okay. So
and that's an interesting word. It's a verb that comes from the word yeled, which means child. So yeladet is you gave, or yelda is she gave birth. Here it's yeladet, you gave birth.
So it says here, behold, now you are barren. All right? All right. You are barren and have no children. You have not borne children, but you shall. And I think this is such a great phrase. Yeah. But you shall conceive and give birth to a son. Boy, I wonder if that whole phrase. Do we see that anywhere else? But you shall conceive and give birth to a son. But you shall conceive and give birth to a son. Wow.
What you got?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. When I read that phrase, I'm like, okay, something's about to happen here. And but then it says in the 13:4, unless you want to say something about that. Are you okay?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Now, therefore, be careful, guard it, keep it, not to drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. Now, I get the whole not to drink wine or strong drink.
Why?
Well, let me say what I say I get. She's about to have this baby, and she's going to say not to drink wine or strong drink. And I'm thinking, okay, that's got to be related to something. We're going to find out what it is. We got a list of verses before we find out what it is. Nor eat any unclean thing. Well, the unclean thing, maybe I'm making an assumption here. Wouldn't it be automatic that she's not eating unclean? Not whether she's pregnant or not pregnant, that she's not eating unclean.
So here we've got to explain there's two different meanings of unclean. Or there are... All right. So, blah, blah. Yeah. I think we need to go back to Numbers chapter 6. Can we do that? Because that's the parallel passage here.
Okay.
It's actually the passage that is in this week's Torah portion, and this is the prophet's portion that parallels it. But specifically, we just got to read this.
For those that don't know, if you're just now listening for the first time, folks, we did an entire recording of the Torah portions, an entire year of recordings. We did that in 2011 or 12. I never remember the year. People are listening to it every time. Every year, every that cycle. Now the cycle is the prophet portions, and so there's the Torah portion and there's the prophet portion, and Nehemiah's talking about connecting the two. Those they are connected.
Well, I mean, here we can't even understand the prophet portion unless we read the Torah. Like, what is this about eating wine? And that's because there's something that's not being stated here that's implicit. That if you read number 6, you immediately will recognize, and it's a key part of the story. And you know, I'm not going to read the whole passage. Go read it yourself. Numbers chapter 6, starting in verse 1. It's the section of the Nazir. Go listen to the original listen to the original Torah pearls and read that section. Numbers chapter 6.
And how do they listen to the
1.
original Torah pearls?
They can listen to it on nehemiaswall.com and on bfainternational.com.
Awesome.
And it's talking here about this thing we call the Nazir. In English, they call it the Nazarite. Nazir is this person who makes a certain type of vow. And during the time of his vow, he has all these rules he has to follow. The most famous of them is he can't cut his hair, and that becomes a central thing in the story of Samson, who we're going to find out this is really about Samson's birth. But the other thing is he's not allowed to drink wine, and he's not, and this is a little bit of a departure because it doesn't say, the rule of the Nazarite is a man decides, you know what, for 13 days or any random number you choose, really, it's up to you. For 13 days, I'm going to be a Nazarite, and you make this as a vow to Yehovah, and it's a limited time thing. Well, Samson is a different situation. He never took a vow. In fact, it's this angel who is telling his mother, you have this situation where the boy is going to be a Nazarite, and he's telling her not to drink wine. Well, it didn't say anything about that in number 6 because we weren't dealing there with a lifelong Nazarite. We were dealing with a limited time Nazarite.
That's interesting.
Yeah, to the point where we have to say, well, did such a thing even exist in the Torah? And if it, the Torah doesn't mention it. So here we're talking about a different sort of Nazarite. Specifically, the Nazarite has a sacrifice he brings at the end of his term. Well, Samson, there was no, the term never ended. It was his whole life.
Yeah, that's something.
So, yeah. And so when we're dealing here with the issue of uncleanness, so the Nazir, he has to maintain a state of ritual cleanness. Now, the average person, you and I, we don't need to maintain a state of ritual cleanness. That's not something we're commanded to do. If we go to the temple, we've got to be ritually clean. So when he's telling her don't eat something unclean, he's not talking about pork, which is an unclean animal. He's actually talking about something that would make you ritually unclean.
And how do we know that? By the word? Or is it something else?
No, I think from exactly what you said. Why would the angel tell her to do something that she's commanded to do in the Torah? It makes no sense. So what would it mean? It has to be, and this is a distinction. If you read in Leviticus 11, you have two categories. Let me read you the last couple of verses of Leviticus 11 so you see what I'm talking about, because I feel like, I don't know, we've been recording all day and you're not with me.
I'm with you.
All right. So Leviticus chapter 11, which is and here's where things get complicated. In English we talk about, or even in Hebrew we'll say something's kosher and unkosher. That word never appears in the Tanakh. The word is clean and unclean, but again, there's two different types of things here. Leviticus 11:46-47 says, "These are the instructions concerning animals, birds, all living creatures that move in water, and all creatures that swarm on earth, for distinguishing between the unclean and the clean, between the living things that may be eaten and the living things that may not be eaten." So there we have things that if you touch them, you'll become unclean, especially when they're dead specifically. And then you have things that you may eat and not eat. And those are two different kinds of things. And so here it's telling her not to eat something unclean. And presumably from the context of the Nazarite, it's so that she doesn't become unclean and thereby make the child unclean. Now, you're right. It's possible that he's saying don't eat pork. But that's a strange thing for the angel to say.
Well, I didn't say for sure. I'm just saying when she says nor eating any unclean thing, the question becomes, is this something further? Is it beyond that? And I think that's what you're
think so. In other words, that's my take on it.
Yep.
And if you want to disagree, that's fine. But my take on it is that because he's this Nazarite and wants to maintain a state of ritual cleanness, that she's getting this sort of commandment that a regular person wouldn't be required to do, just like the Nazarite wouldn't drink wine, the Nazarite wouldn't eat something that's ritually unclean.
Yep.
Even though you and I can eat that, we just can't eat an unclean species. Does that make any sense?
So, can you give an example of something that would be ritually unclean?
Yeah, so, let me read you this. Numbers 6, verse 7. It says, even if his father or mother or his brother or his sister should die, he must not defile himself for them, since, this is the JPS, since hair set apart for his God is upon his head. Throughout his term as a Nazarite, he is consecrated to Yehovah, and the word is kadosh, holy. Yeah. So what does that mean? That means a Nazarite is not allowed to go to a cemetery, because if you touch a grave, you become ritually unclean. He can't touch a grave. Even for his father or mother or his wife, he's not allowed to become ritually unclean because he's holy to Yehovah. And you're allowed to touch a grave. You're allowed to become ritually unclean. The only time that would be an issue is if you were going to the temple.
Right.
Then you would go through the process of the purification.
Yep.
But the Nazarite has to maintain a state of ritual purity, whereas you and I don't. And here, so what's an example? Let's say, for example, I don't know, we've got a hamburger, and the hamburger is, I don't want to be, how do I put this? Well, I'll just say it. So a woman who is menstruating, she makes the hamburger, and you and I could eat that. That's no problem whatsoever. But the Nazarite wouldn't be allowed to eat that.
Okay.
Because she makes that ritually unclean by touching it. That's a whole discussion in Leviticus 15. And therefore he can't, the Nazarite wouldn't be allowed to eat that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And that's actually really important because some people read Leviticus 15, they don't understand this whole context. They don't read the last couple verses of Leviticus 15, and they think, oh, the menstruating woman can't make any of my food. No, that's only if you're a Nazarite or you're going to the temple. That's
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we did discuss that during the Torah pros. I was actually excited that we got into the depth of that because we talked about some actual practical modern day examples of where people get confused about that.
Yeah.
But then we do see this phrase again in 13:3 from 13:5.
Yeah.
For behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son. He says it once, you shall conceive and give birth to a son. 2 verses later, for behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son. And now she goes no further. And this is where if she didn't understand what was going on in verse 4, she probably does understand what's happening in verse 5. Because the connection is, no razor shall come upon his head. For the boy shall be and he's giving the explanation, shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb. And he shall begin to deliver, it says, he shall begin to deliver, real interesting word there, to begin to deliver, la hoshiah, Israel from the hands of the Philistines.
So you're just going to gloss past that?
No, I'm going to just read it first.
Okay.
So the process of her saying, here's the son, and now here's what the son's going to do. There's, and again, if we don't read the first verse, 40 years it says that they were handed in. This must be this must be that when he comes out.
Year 41 maybe.
Or maybe not 41.
Or maybe
it's when he gets to the place that he knows what that year is.
Well, and it says he will begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. He didn't finish the process. It was David that finished the process.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So so that verb, la hoshiah, to save, that's pretty cool. Here we have an angel coming and foretelling the birth of a child, and that child has a special status as a Nazarite, and we're told that child will save Israel.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Hey, folks, if you've never read our book, A Prayer to Our Father, Hebrew Origins of the Lord's Prayer, it's a great book. But before that book is a book that, let me say that. How can I put this? Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. If you haven't read a book, A Prayer to Our Father, Hebrew Origins of the Lord's Prayer, you might want to read it. But before that book, Nehemia, in the Hebrew Yeshua versus the Greek Jesus, didn't you address something regarding this or no?
I don't remember which book it was in, but it's in one of the books. I don't know, to be honest with you.
I got to be honest with you.
I've read so many books, I don't know what's in them.
It's so funny. It really is kind of funny because we're here, and we are vexed. We're getting pushed to the wall, and I'm saying, you read a book, and I'm thinking, wait, Keith, you're halfway in a sentence. What are you trying to say?
So I guess what you're talking about is in the Gospel of Matthew, where there's an angel that appears to okay, I think this is...
which book are we talking about?
I don't remember which book it's in, but it's in one of the books. I don't remember.
Are you kidding me? We don't know which book it's in.
I wrote the book over 10 years ago. I don't remember what's in it.
No, it's phenomenal because we're talking about the angel that came to Mary, and it's really from the manuscript in
the Hebrew Matthew.
The Hebrew Matthew, and it really is a powerful thing because again, we
maybe that's in the naming of Jesus book. I don't know.
Yeah, but
it's somewhere in there.
But the point is,
read all the books.
You read all the books. But the point is, we talked earlier, and I actually was giving you a softball regarding what the word, the root of the words for salvation and saving.
Yeah, the hoshiah is the root is yud-shin-ayin.
And then you just talked about this phrase and saying, saying what it is. You'll be a Nazarite to God from them, and shall begin to, and the word deliver in English,
the hoshiah,
or save. Yeah, and then again when we get
it's deliver in English.
Yeah, in English.
In Hebrew, it's to save.
Yeah,
okay.
it's hoshiah. So anyway,
yes,
it's awesome. Now
the angel foretells the birth of the Savior.
Exactly. Then the woman
Judges
came.
chapter 13.
Here's where things get really interesting to me. More husband-wife stuff. Husbands and wives, listen up on this one. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, and I think this is interesting. She says this in verse 6. She says, Ish ha-Elohim, a man of God came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of the angel of God. So she gives first the fact that he's a man of God. Then she goes on to give the explanation of him, saying, but I will just tell you something. He looked like what? A melech, an angel, a malach.
Yeah.
Very awesome, she says. And I did not ask him where he came from or where he's from, nor did he tell me his name.
And for very awesome, the Hebrew is very terrifying.
Very terrifying. Wow. Can you imagine having that happen? I mean,
why does she say he's a man of God? Why doesn't she just say he's an angel of God?
She doesn't know.
If it quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, it's a duck.
Maybe she's never seen before, heard, or never had this happen and wasn't 100% sure. In fact,
how does she know it looks like an angel of God?
Okay, but here's what's funny.
She doesn't know an angel of God.
The story is going to give us another hint about this, which I think is interesting. I want to get to it if we can.
Right. Go on.
But he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son, and now you shall not drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing, for the boy shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb. And then she adds something really interesting, to the day of his death. Now, the angel actually didn't say it. Maybe the angel did say it, and it's not in the text.
What's recorded is the angel says from the womb. Doesn't she seems to add, as far as we can tell, until the day of his death. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Maybe the angel said it, it's just not recorded. But from what we know, she added. That reminds me of the story of Adam and Eve, where they were told not to eat of it, and when she's speaking to or he was told not to eat of it, but the way she got the message was they weren't supposed to eat of it or even touch it.
Okay. Now, you have something you want to say about this before I move on?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You don't have to say something, Nehemia. I mean, if you well, really go ahead.
No, so number 6, we definitely have this idea of this lifelong Nazarite, which is unique. This is the only place in the entire Tanakh. Now, in the Septuagint, for example, Samuel, we're told, is in the lifelong Nazarite. But that's not in the Tanakh.
Yeah, in the Septuagint.
So did I say the Septuagint?
Yeah.
What did I say? Yeah. So in the Septuagint, so that would mean possibly 2, but
some people don't know the Septuagint. Can you tell them what that is?
That's the ancient Greek translation of the Tanakh. But yeah, that's what I got. Let's go on.
Okay. Now, here's where things get interesting to me. So she goes to her husband. Let me set this up. She has this amazing thing happen. She gets this word. This is what's going to happen. She believes it, I guess. She tells him what the deal. And then Manoah does this. Now, I have to be honest. And husbands and wives that are listening, I asked the question. I would ask the question, if it was me, what would I have said? Andrea comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to let you know. A man of God came. He looked to me like an angel, and he says that we're going to have a son, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." My prayer might not be like Manoah. Manoah's prayer is, "Oh Lord, please let the man of God whom you..." He doesn't even question if it happened. He just assumes, yes, it happened. But I need something. Could you have him come back, not to tell me if this is really what he said, but that he may teach us what to do for the boy who is to be born?
That's strange.
Are you buying that?
It's strange.
I just think it's amazing
because they were given the instructions. So what more does he want?
I think what he's really trying to say is, could you have the man of God come back so I could see for myself?
So I can see? I think you're right.
Well, the reason I think that is a little bit more because as we go through the story.
Yeah.
But, and there's really something interesting about that. The story starts out by giving us Manoah's name, doesn't give us the wife's name, but yet the first conversation is from the man of God to the wife. And I've actually had some people talk to me about, how women were treated differently, in the ways that women were treated. And there wasn't an example where the angel went to the woman. And I'm like, here's a story right here where the angel didn't even go to the husband first. The angel went to her. And I think that maybe that would have been the end of the story, except that Manoah decided to pray and say, okay, Yehovah, please let the man of God come back. And then here comes the answer. It says it in 13:9, Nehemia. It says, and he answered. Who did? It just says, and he answered. Now, in English, it says, God listened to the voice of Manoah. What does it say in Hebrew?
Which verse are we in?
Okay.
All right. So here we have verse 9.
Yes.
Vayishma ha'Elohim b'kol Manoah, and God heard the voice.
And he heard the voice of Manoah.
And the angel of God came again to the woman, and she was sitting in the field, and Manoah, her husband, was not with her.
I think this is funny.
Yeah, there is an irony here.
No, it's really funny. So first the angel comes to her. Manoah prays and says, okay, please send him back. And it even says, God listened to the prayer of Manoah. But he sends him back
to her. In the prayer, he says, let him come to us. He should have said, let him come to me.
Yeah. Well, either way.
Us, which one of us, Kimosabi, right?
Kimosabi, right?
Who's we, Kimosabi?
But her husband was not with her. Now, again, this is the kind of stuff I just have to say, Nehemia, that when I'm reading scripture, this is where I have these slow down moments.
Yeah.
Because I slow down and I ask myself, it's a really minor thing. It's a really minor thing. But God listened to the voice. What was the prayer? Send the angel to us.
Yeah.
And the angel of God came again to the woman. Don't know her name, but she's had her second visitation. Mm-hmm. And she was sitting in the field. And then it lets us know. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. Unlike in Genesis chapter 2. Was it 3? Where it says, and she took of the fruit, and her husband was with her. That's like a sidelight. It's like let you know that Adam is sitting right there while she's going through this. And in this situation, the angel comes. She's sitting in the field, and her husband is not with her. Mm-hmm. So what does the woman do? She runs quickly and tells her husband, "Behold, the man who came the other day has appeared to me." Then what does he do? He's a smart man. He follows his wife. And when he came to the man, he said to him, he asked him the question. Now I wonder if he's in the same appearance. Is he still appearing like this awesome angel that she says? And if so, he asked the question. Now, she already said, the man's come back. Mm-hmm. What does Manoah do? Are you the man? What's he asking him? Are you the man? Of course he's the man. You prayed.
Look, he's skeptical.
Come on, let's be honest. Does he look awesome?
If Andrea came to you today and said an angel appeared to me and he looked, a man appeared to me and he looked like an angel, and you'd be calling the doctor and having her evaluated. Am I right?
Okay, I don't think so.
Maybe not. Okay.
I mean, I would definitely want to know, but there is something interesting. And again, I want to get to the fun part here, because it says in verse 11, it says, so he says, "Are you the man who spoke to the woman?" He doesn't say, "Are you the man who spoke to my wife?" Hey, are you the man who spoke to the woman? I mean, is that just not weird to you?
No, because the word for woman also means wife.
Exactly. Ding, 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 ding. So tell the people that.
Right. In other words, he could have said, "Ha'ata ha'isha shel dibarta el ishti."
Yeah.
Are you the man who spoke to my wife? Mm-hmm. But he says, "Are you the man who spoke to the wife?"
Yes.
The wife or the woman. It's the same word in Hebrew.
Yes.
I don't know that I'd read anything into that though.
No. I think it's interesting just from just knowing that word is ha'isha.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he says, ani.
Ani, I am.
Yeah. Does he say I am or I?
Oh, he literally says I.
There is no Hebrew. I. It doesn't say...
Yeah, there is no word for am in typical Hebrew.
I am that I am.
All right. Okay. But the word am is implied, so it's I.
Yeah.
Okay, I am.
I. Then Manoah says the statement of faith. When your words come to pass, as I know they shall, what shall be the boy's mode of life? And I'm thinking instead he's asking this question. When your words come to pass, what shall I name the boy?
That's not what he's. Yeah, that's not the thing he's interested in.
He's not interested. He's not asking the boy's name. He says, "What shall be the boy's?" I think it's what he uses the word here, mishpat. What shall be the boy's judgment?
Which means the law.
What shall be the of life and his vocation? Wow,
vocation. No,
and that's what it says.
Maasehu and his action.
And his action. What will he do?
Right. What's he got to do?
13. So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, "Let the."
What? Why are you laughing?
Let the woman pay attention. That all I said. He doesn't. He's still
everything that I.
Poor Manoah.
Yeah.
I just got to be honest. Poor Manoah. The angel comes, goes to his wife, tells them the situation. Then he prays about it. The angel goes back to his wife, and then he sees it and he says, "Okay, we spoke to the woman. Now tell me what is it that's going to happen?" And she says, "Let the woman pay attention to all that I said." Doesn't even talk to him again. He's not in the conversation.
What are you reading? Exactly?
No, I'm looking here. There's 13 verse 12.
Let the woman pay attention.
That's what it says, Nehemia. So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, "Let the woman pay attention to all that I said."
That's see, I was confused. That's not what it says in Hebrew at all.
Exactly. What does it say?
It says, "From all that I." Is that really what it says?
Of course it is.
What? It says, "From all that I said to the woman, you shall diligently guard. You shall guard. You shall do." In other words, I already told you what to do. Just do what the woman said. I already told her. Yeah. And that's the exact opposite of what you have. Is that like common in the translations? I have.
So the angel of the Lord. Let's look at a couple other translations.
I'm shocked. What translation is that?
NASB.
Like, why did they switch it 180 degrees? So the JPS has, "The woman must abstain from all the things about which I warned her." I see what's happening here. Okay. This is interesting. Okay, so the last word in the verse is tishamer, which means, and it's ambiguous, the meaning in Hebrew. It could have two possible meanings. It could mean you will guard or she will guard.
And what's that based on, Nehemia?
So that's, what do you mean? There's two forms in Hebrew that are the same.
Don't say it isn't. It's not an obvious.
It's obvious.
Tell the people.
All right.
This is great.
So in Hebrew you have these four suffixes for future verbs, aleph, yud, tav, nun, and the tav could mean you, or it could mean she.
Exactly.
And so this is ambiguous. And it could mean she. And I guess the argument of making it she is that the next verse, let's see, is that she should not drink. But then again, it could be you, meaning, you want to know what to do. Here's what you should do. And then it talks about what's commanded to her. So anyway, yeah, this is interesting. But yeah.
Okay.
So, but I'm shocked though. Your translation is just completely different. I mean,
let the woman pay attention to all that I said.
Yeah, I don't know. I see. So they're doing it with the she. Okay, got it. It could be either way. They're both very possible.
All right. So it's not as bad as you thought.
It's not as bad as I thought.
Okay, awesome.
It's been solved.
But what's really interesting, and I'm not ready to talk about it right now because I think we're in the middle of the story. But I just think it's really interesting. Nehemia, that first when we said that we look at the different translations, you're like, hey, what's going on here? And then immediately you could look. Yeah. When you're looking in the Hebrew, you could see, I can see what's going on here. Why could you see what's going on here?
I mean, I wouldn't have translated it that way, but
but you can identify what it was that they were struggling with. And they're looking at a word that potentially could mean she.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Judges 13:14 says she should not eat anything that comes from the vine nor drink wine. And again, I think this is grace. I'm going to explain it to you again. She should not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor drink wine or strong drink. Did he not say that earlier? Nor eat any unclean thing. Let her observe all that I commanded. May it be that we would all learn to go according to all that is commanded. Then the angel, Manoah said to the angel of Yehovah, I think it's kind of funny. Please let us detain you so that we may prepare a young goat for you. Now he's going to be a host, a good host. Here comes the angel. What does the angel do? You've done this great work. It's time to eat. Boy, and people can learn something from that. You've worked all day. You've come and you've done all these things. You've done 5 profit pearls. It's now time for me to take you to eat. And she says,
I can't wait.
Please let us detain you so that we may prepare.
You can detain me, Keith, for some lamb or goat.
I need that tonight. Yeah. And the angel of Yehovah said to Manoah, though you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you insist and you want to prepare a burnt offering, offer it to Yehovah. And then here comes the statement. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of Yehovah.
Or I would say an angel of Yehovah, but okay. I
Okay,
guess it could be either.
He didn't know. And so Manoah doesn't know that. At least at this point, he's not aware of what's going on. That's what it clearly says in the text. We get to the fun part now. Manoah said to the angel of Yehovah, simple question. I mean, and we hear this all through Scripture.
How do you not know he was the angel? She said he was a man of God who looked like an angel.
Look.
I'm back to it. Talks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. I don't understand. It's like I tell you, I met a man on the street, and he was wearing a police uniform, and he had a badge.
And a gun.
And he was like, he looked like a policeman. So he's a policeman. Or maybe he's not, but if you're telling me he looks like one, like, I don't understand.
Can I throw a little controversy out here?
Sure.
So did Abraham know when the men of God came that they were...
Doesn't say that they looked like angels. Doesn't say that. Meaning, and I don't know what an angel looks like. That's another question.
She says that.
What does an
she
angel...
says
I understand.
That she thinks that it looks like an angel.
So let's put this... What does an angel look like?
We don't know.
But she knows that it looks
She
like
says,
he looks
she
like
says,
an angel.
no, she says, a man of God came. So first of all, he must have
Does
shown
he
up-
have wings?
No, let me
Is
say
that
let me say something from the text. I think we could argue this. He clearly looks like a man.
Yeah.
Okay, so from Manoah's perspective and from her perspective, he looks like a man. But there's something special. At least she sees something special.
This is mysterious.
No,
It's mysterious.
Okay.
I want people to go to nehemiaswall.com and post your thoughts. Why did she think he looked like an angel? And how is it if according to her he looked like an angel and that Manoah can't figure it out? What does... Someone explain it to me.
Okay.
Please offer your hypotheses and... I'm sure there's somebody out there who's figured it out. Please come share it at nehemiaswall.com.
Awesome. Don't waste your time at bfainternational.com with the question. Please don't do that. Only go to bfainternational.com, not with your theories, but you better have an answer because I'm telling you, we're going to challenge you. Okay. Just kidding. Hey, but it says, the angel of Yehovah said to him, I'm sorry. We're missing the key verse.
What verse are you in?
17.
Yeah.
So now Manoah asks a question that we hear in Scripture. What is your name? Mm-hmm. So that when your words come to pass, this is the reason I need to know your name. We may put up a plaque that says, in honor to the name of... Is that what he's saying here? What is your name so that we may honor you? And what does may honor you? So is that really... Does he want to know the name for that reason?
Yeah.
Really? So he can tell the neighbors so that when I can say, this is the angel who came, this was his name.
Shmuley was here and he spoke the truth, and we must honor him. That's what he wants to know the guy's name so he can give him honor. His name is whatever it is,
Okay, here comes the verse I've been saying for 3 verses. It's a fun verse.
Yeah.
This is where I think it really is fun. It says, but the angel of Yehovah, and this is clear the angel of Yehovah, it says in this text, why do you ask my name, seeing, and let's just look at a few translations here. Folks, I want to have you to do something. I want you to get at least, shut the recording off for a second. Go get a Bible translation. 2 translations, it doesn't matter what they are, and open up to Judges 13:18. And when you open up to Judges 13:18, let's ask the question, and Nehemia, you do this best, you can do it the fastest, to look at what the other English translations say.
So you want me to do that?
Yes, right now, while they're getting their Bibles, let's look at the KJV, the NIV, the JPS, the NASB, and see what they say. Because in my translation here, in the NASB, and from a few sessions ago, we talked about this word. But in my translation, it says, why do you ask my name, seeing that it is wonderful?
So his name is wonderful.
Well, he doesn't say that's my name.
Oh, my name is wonderful. Why? So King James says, why askest thou thus after my name, seeing it is secret?
That's...
Okay. JPS has, you must not ask for my name. It is unknowable. That was NIV you brought. So
NASB. I brought.
NASB.
Give me the NIV.
The NIV, the nearly inspired version. He replied, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." NRSV says, "Why do you ask my name? It is too wonderful." Okay, so we've got pretty much, I don't know,
5 different options,
but they're not that different.
Okay.
Meaning, okay. So what does it say in the Hebrew, Keith? Can you please... I want you to do the word of the week and tell people what
we
is
already
the Hebrew.
did this word of the week 2 weeks ago. We did this
that,
exact
word. We did
word.
that root, not that word. So let's
we
teach
didn't
them,
do the word?
Let's teach them another word from the same root.
Oh, okay.
Since it's a key word. Can we
so what do we know? That we've got each word, and as my Hebrew teacher, and I got to say something to him. You by far are in the top 2 of the toughest teachers I've ever had. One would be you, and one would be the teacher at Hebrew University. You're both from the same root. What is it about you people? So, anyways, he says, seeing that my name, it is wonderful. And in the word itself, Let's see.
Peli.
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 Pei-lamech-aleph-yud. And the yud. And the interesting thing about this is actually an adjective. That it's and again
I don't accept.
You don't accept that it's an adjective.
That's what it says in your computer program, but that's not so clear.
You don't think so?
No, it's not so clear at all. First of all, we've got something really unusual here, which is a silent aleph. Mm-hmm. The aleph is there. It's not that unusual. Like in the word bereshit, which is the word that means Genesis, you have a silent aleph. So anyway, we have meaning. So this is a silent aleph, peli. Yeah. It's as if the aleph isn't there. Mm-hmm. It's not peli. It's peli, pei-lamech-aleph-yud, and the aleph just tells you that aleph was there in the root. Mm-hmm. Like in bereshit, the aleph isn't pronounced.
So I want to ask you a question, Nehemia. You said peli. Why did you not say feli?
Yeah, feli is.
So it's feli. I caught you. You said peli. It's feli.
So if we take the word by itself, it's actually peli.
Yeah, but
if we read it in the sentence, you say v'hu feli, and that has to do with ending the word hu with an open consonant, an open. I'm too tired to say.
So there's two options. So you can either have the pei sound, or what we call the soft pei, or the fei sound.
Right.
And what's interesting about this, and actually this is a little small thing. It's a small thing, but if you're learning to read Hebrew, it's an important thing, and especially for people like you who say that's not how you say it. So if I was reading this verse and I said,
if you're reading the verse and you say "hu peli," you're wrong.
You're wrong. It'd have to.
But if I ask you what is the name, you can say peli.
So, but here's what's interesting about this. As we mentioned, there's the three letters pei-lamech-aleph, and you said you don't see it as an adjective. So
maybe it's an adjective. I don't know.
It's an adjective. In other words, what else would it be?
So you have these what's called it's complicated. Basically,
it's complicated.
No. So you have these sentences in Hebrew where there's no word, there's no is, and it's a nominative sentence. So, for example, you say, I don't know, hu gadol, he is big.
He's big.
So big there, I guess technically is an adjective, but in that sentence, it's the it's the I guess you got like subject and predicate. Mm-hmm. So arguably, it's functioning as a noun. Mm-hmm. So.
He is big as an adjective.
Not in Hebrew.
No, I'm saying.
I guess you could call it an adjective.
Yeah. No, here's not.
Linguists argue about these things.
They argue back and forth. But anyway, in the situation, what is wonderful about this word? Did you catch that? What is wonderful about this word? It has been translated into different ways of saying it.
Yeah.
But I think the question becomes, what does it mean?
Yeah, so let's give some examples of where this appears.
Yeah. Yep.
Go ahead, Keith.
Well, no, you've got the computer.
So we've got Psalm 119, verse 18, right?
Yep.
Where it says, uncover my eyes that I may see the wonderful hidden things of your Torah. So that's from the same root. It's niflaot there. Yep. We talked about in Jeremiah, I think it was.
That was the one that we just did.
Yeah, we just did that a few weeks ago, where God says, is anything beyond my ability is too difficult for me, and that's the same word, yipale. And here it's peli or feli, which is from the same root. So this could really be translated: it is hidden, it is too difficult, it is beyond understanding. All of those are correct. It's this word that has all of those meanings, and So what is the name? And I've actually heard people who say the name of the angel is peli, P-E-L-I. That's the angel's name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the context, he's saying, no, you can't know my name. It's beyond understanding.
Yeah, and let me tell you what I like about this verse, and I say like about it is because this verse is also then used by some people to say, well, really, the angel is Yehovah, and this is Yehovah saying, my name is too hidden, too amazing, too you can never know it. And what if Yehovah would have said that to Moses? Moses says, what is your name? And he says, look, you can't even know it. It's hidden. It's unpronounceable.
Unknowable.
It's unknowable. And isn't that interesting, Nehemia? So we go to this verse, and the angel, we don't know the angel's name. What is the angel's name?
We don't know.
It clearly doesn't say, and we don't know what his name is. But what if Yehovah said that? My name is that. And that's not what's happening here. It's the exact opposite. When Moses asks the question, he tells them exactly what his name is. And he tells them what to tell the people of Israel. Tell them, when you want to say what my name is, it is this. And of course, that's where we get into the issues of understanding what the meaning of his name is. He was, he is, and he shall be, based on understanding just a little bit about the way that he reveals his name to Moses in the language.
Now, can we talk about angels and names?
Sure.
So, what are the angels who are named in the Tanakh? Who are they?
Wow. Michael
or Michael, and
We have
and Gabriel.
Yep, Gabriel.
Those are the only two angels that are named in the Tanakh that are given names. That's only in the book of Daniel. In the entire Tanakh, there's only two angels that have names, and they're in the book of Daniel. And the rest of the Tanakh, we don't have a single angel whose name we know. We have repeatedly this statement, Malach Yehovah, an angel of Yehovah, a messenger of Yehovah, or sometimes it's the messenger of Yehovah, Malach Elohim, Malach Ha-Elohim. So, which is interesting. These angels don't have names until you get to Daniel. Then you have two angels in particular circumstances that have names. I do think it's interesting that the angel says, look, don't bring me sacrifices. Whoever this angel is if you want to offer a sacrifice, he says, offer it to Yehovah, don't offer it to me. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I think
he's pointing to his, and Malach means messenger.
Yeah, so
he's pointing to the one who sent him,
Yeah.
which is Yehovah. That's not disputed. Nobody disputes that. He's saying, look, I'm just the messenger. Send it to my boss, Yehovah.
Wow,
that's pretty cool.
So it says here, after that happens, he asks them the question. He gives it, he gives the answer. Then Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered on the rock. So I guess it must have been on something that was normally
a famous rock,
a rock that maybe is where he offered.
It was where the Mayflower landed.
Who knows? I mean, it says a rock, and he performed, and then it says, this is interesting. So it says, so Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered on the rock to Yehovah, and then in English it says, and he performed wonders. What? What wonders? What did he do?
Well, we're about to find out.
He performed wonders while Manoah...
And of course, the word is from the same root.
Yes.
Mafli,
Yes.
from the root pei-lamech-aleph-yud.
Isn't that amazing?
So he's saying, my name is Peli, and then he does a Peli thing.
And that's, I got to say again, that's what's so cool about Hebrew, where you see that there's these words that are connected, puns, etc., where there's, this word, that other word, etc. And then here comes the wonder. Here comes the hidden. Here comes the amazing. Here comes the wonderful, I can't figure it out kind of thing. For it came about when the flame went up from the altar. Now it says it's not now it's not a rock. And if we ask the question, we offered it on the rock. Here it says it's the altar.
Well, once you're offering it on that rock, rock becomes the altar.
Mizbeach.
It's an unhewn stone.
And it says here, and from the altar toward heaven, and that the angel of Yehovah ascended in the flame of the altar. Wow. And Manoah and his wife did what I would probably do, except for I probably wouldn't just fall on my face. That'd be it. They fell on their faces. Have a heart attack. Well, they fell on their faces to the ground. And wow. I mean, they had an encounter.
Yeah.
With this. And I think what's interesting about it to me is that maybe he did show up, and maybe they didn't know. Is it an angel? Is it not an angel? The fact is that he would show up as a man, and we know definitely whatever a man looked like at that time, he must have looked like a man. Maybe he looked like something else, as you say, that why didn't they know it was an angel?
He has a man coming with fire out of his head.
We don't know. But when this happens, everything changes. All of a sudden, he becomes fire. And I mean, there's that. Yeah. We could do a whole study on that.
21 and 22?
Yes.
And the angel of Yehovah did not again appear to Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah knew Ki malach Yehovahu, that he is an angel, the angel of Yehovah.
That's when he knew.
After he goes up in a wisp of smoke, then he knows. And Manoah said to his wife, we will surely die, Ki Elohim ra'inu, for we have seen God.
Wow.
And I'll be honest, I'm as confused as Manoah is. Did he see God or did he see the angel? And I think the answer is, we're almost forced to...
What do you mean you think the answer is? She gives the answer.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
No, go on.
No. It says,
Read verse 23.
He says, we will surely die. It's over on the logistics guy. It's done. We've seen God. But his wife said to him, because she's practical, if Yehovah had desired to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all these things, nor would he have let us hear things like this at this time.
Yeah. That doesn't answer the question about whether they saw God or not.
So
did they see God or did they see an angel?
They saw an angel. The Bible clearly says...
So why does he say Elohim ra'inu, we saw God?
Because Manoah's confused. He's been confused from the beginning of the story. And that's why the angel didn't go to him
I have a different answer. Which is that the Hebrew word Elohim means God, but it also means angels.
Okay.
And I think we've talked about that.
Yep.
I think we did. I don't know. But in any event, we can see that here. And we got this. What is Manoah talking about? Why does he think if you see God, you'll die? There's definitely religions in the world and ancient pagans who believed that you could see God and there was no problem with it. We talked about the story of the people who believed that Zeus and Hermes were walking among them in Acts, right? So they didn't say, "Oh, we're going to die because we saw Zeus or Hermes." But here's what Manoah knows. He knows Exodus 33:20. And he said, "You cannot see my face, for a man will not see me and live. A man cannot see me and live," God says to Moses. So Manoah says, "Wait a minute! If we saw God, we're dead." And Manoah is clearly confused, or maybe not. Maybe he means we saw angels. We saw an angel.
Well, you got.
But why would you die from seeing an angel? There's some confusion here.
Okay, do me a favor. So you said there's an examples where Elohim is angels, or an angel. Can you give us the example? I need an example. You can't say that to me. If Manoah said to his wife, "We will surely die, for we have seen God," Manoah thinks, and you're saying that Manoah really isn't saying God. Manoah is saying we saw.
I'm saying that's one possibility. Probably the best example that I can give you is going to be with the witch of Endor. The Baalat Ov, or the spirit mistress. So Saul goes to her, and I'm looking for the passage. Give me a minute.
No problem.
It's a little difficult because we're looking for the word Elohim. It appears pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
While
you're doing that. So while you're doing that, now again, I was reading it from this perspective. I was reading it from the perspective of Manoah, who's throughout the story, he steps in at different times looking for the logistics to declare, hey, can we get you something to eat? Hey, what's your name? Hey, can you come back and explain that? Oh, you already told my wife. And he's doing his thing. And then he comes to the end and he says, okay, we will surely die, for we have seen God. I say Manoah still is confused. Manoah is being Manoah. And his wife is being practical. We don't know her name, but boy, she's practical. She says, listen, if Yehovah had desired to kill us, it would have happened a long time ago. No, he would have accepted a burnt offering, a grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all these things, nor would have he let us hear these things like at this time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
So my verse here for Elohim meaning an angel is 1 Samuel 28:13.
Yes.
I'm going to read from verse 12. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice, and the woman said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." The king said to her, "Have no fear. What do you see?" The woman said to Saul, this is in the NRSV, "I see a divine being coming up out of the ground." And in Hebrew it says, Elohim ra'iti olim min haaretz. Literally, Elohim, plural, I see coming up out of the earth. How do I know it's plural? Because she says olim, which is the verb there is plural.
Come on with that, brother.
So Elohims I see coming up, they are coming up from the ground, and most people understand that she didn't see gods; she actually saw angels, or what she thought was angels. It turned out it wasn't angels.
It's funny because you also mentioned that sometimes the pagans will say Elohim, and treat it as a different.
Right. Well, they'll treat it this way where it's plural.
Yeah.
There are perhaps other passages. That's maybe the clearest one.
Okay.
To me,
about that.
Yeah.
So he asked this question, and like I said, whatever he was confused about. We know he didn't see God. We know that he saw this man who morphed into a flame, and that certainly wasn't God. Meaning that wasn't Yehovah.
Well, according to the gentleman who was speaking to my mother, it was.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. And let me just say something about this.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm dead serious. Here's what I'm. And can I do the ministry minute? Because I'm
Go ahead.
Really this. I said something before we started.
We must edit this whole
thing. No,
out.
we cannot edit the whole thing, folks. You're getting it just the way it came. I deal with this thing. I say the know it sums. And I don't know anything. I am a neophyte. I just know little bit. And what I do know, I always ask myself the question: how does it make a difference in my life? Like, how can this make a difference in my life? And this is not so much the ministry minute. I just want to say. One of the things that this confuses me is where people don't always know what the information is, even the stuff they don't know. Like there's some stuff we just don't know. Is that fair? Some things we just can't know.
There's libraries full of stuff I don't know.
Libraries of things we can't know. But there are some things that we actually can know. And what always frustrates me, if I can just take my minute, is when it's not something that we don't know, but it becomes law. Well, this is definitely the case. And sometimes it just confuses me. That conversation that he's having with your mother, I don't know if I could have sat. Were you there when the conversation?
Well, by that time,
So what did you say?
I was just listening.
You just sat and at your mom.
And I tried to help flesh it out. I asked him, like, does this have to do with the Trinity or not the Trinity? And my mother was just really confused by what he was saying. And honestly, when it came to he seemed a little confused too, to be honest with you.
Well, can I give the good news of this story?
Sure.
It says then the woman gave birth to a son. And we never hear anything about the son, what his name is going to be, until he's actually born. The woman gave birth to a son, and she named, I think it says this, named him Samson. And the child grew up, and Yehovah blessed him, and the spirit of Yehovah began. Oh, well, actually, do we go to 25?
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe so.
And the spirit of Yehovah began to stir him. Wow. Wow. Began to stir him in Mahane Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol.
In the camp of Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I want to ask this question, Nehemia. When you see this, it says that let her hear all these things, and the woman gave birth to a son and named him Samson. Is there anything that makes you ask the question why his name is Samson? And what the name means? Well,
I know what the name means. It comes from the word Shemesh, which means sun. And he lives in the area of Beit Shemesh, house of the sun. People worship the sun. And it makes me suspicious of her. They have this experience of an angel of Yehovah.
This is a pearl. Work with this.
But they live in an area where going back to the time of the Canaanites, people worshiped the sun, and the Israelites learned the ways of the Canaanites. And I've got to wonder, after all is said and done, did she name him after the sun? Meaning the sun in the sky. And I can imagine a scenario happening where they see this figure, and it impresses them. It goes up in a wisp of smoke up into the sky, maybe up to the sun, and so they name their son Samson, man of the sun. It's a strange name to give the guy. And look, he is this complex figure, Samson.
He really is.
On the one hand, he has the spirit of Yehovah, and he's described as a savior of Israel. He's coming to save Israel. On the other hand, he's having these relationships with these Philistine women. And, this is not, we can't look at Samson and say, here is our blameless, Messiah, or even someone who follows Torah all that much. On the other hand, he's a Nazarite. He's not drinking wine. He's not cutting his hair. He's a complex figure.
Yeah. I will say this, that I do think it's interesting, as it says, and the child grew up. It's really funny. I want to do something that's really a little bit controversial. And I have the option to do this more times than you can imagine, because I'm a creative person. I really am. I'm a creative person. And I could look at something, and if I had an agenda, I could say this. I'm going to tell you why her name was never mentioned. I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to give you a good reason. And actually, this would be hard for you to argue that it's not true, because I can't show you, and you couldn't show me. Right. I'm going to tell you the reason that why her name was never mentioned is because of the name she gave her son. She gave her son the name for the son, and because of that, she was disqualified of having her name put into the scripture. Sounds completely and utterly ridiculous, but you know what?
Could be.
It could be. And my point is, these are legion. The thousands of times where I'll see something like this, where I could literally make an argument, and it would be hard for you to say it isn't the case. But can I just go a little further on something?
Sure.
What I do think is, and I think we talked about this, Nehemia, a long time ago. There is 1,000 things that we can't know. But there's 1,000,000 things that we can know. And if I could just understand the things that we can know, it would take up the rest of my life. And that's really what I really want to focus on, because I have learned over time that there are a lot of things that we just can't know. I don't need to create some new theology or new denomination or a new following. There's enough just right here in the text that makes me want to shout.
Can you shout, please?
Hallelujah. It's time for the Ministry Minute. Come on, give us something, Nehemia.
Yeah. My ministry is McCord Hebrew Foundation, website, nehemiaswall.com. Come over, sign up for the free newsletter, join the support team, and get some of the support team studies. There's some wonderful studies in there. And, and just come in. There's just so much you can, there's hundreds of hours of stuff you can listen to. Prophet Pearls and Torah Pearls and the podcast. And, come over, get involved. Post your comments on the website, for each of these episodes. When you're listening to it, you can also come and post your comments. People are having these intricate discussions that go on. Some of them are like 30 pages long. Maybe not write a whole Megillah, but...
definitely put something in.
Come and share your thoughts. Yeah. We really want you to be involved in this. it's not just about me and Keith talking to ourselves or talking to the wall. We want you to be involved. And
it's funny. You're getting tired. I can tell you're tired because normally when you talk about the ministry minute, boy, your eyes light up and you get excited. And now you're like, listen. And you know what? You can be pretty casual about it, but when people get there, they're going to be excited. This week, you can go to the front of bfainternational.com and you're going to see Scripture Bites Biblical Hebrew audio course, which means you're going to get a chance to go and learn really basic Hebrew, understanding the consonants and the vowels and some of the other things around it. But the idea is to help you begin to get the tools so that when you hear, whether it's we're talking about some construction of a word, you can at least interact with that information. We're putting it initially in the premium content library, partially so that we can have a controlled group of people that actually will go through the biblical Hebrew course, respond. Here's what's great about it. You're going to have an audio of what's going on and a PDF that you can actually download and go through and tear it up. You can scratch it up. You can say it's wrong. And we want that. We want those comments because throughout the summer, we're going to get comments about this. And hopefully by the time we start the next portion, the Torah cycle, we'll have an entire biblical Hebrew course for beginners that will be made available to all of our registered members. So we really do need your help. Please go to the front. You'll see a course, a lesson will come up every week and a half for you to go through to respond, and that'll be right on the front page for all our premium content library folks. Hopefully you'll sign up for that. And if you don't like it, good news, you can actually sign up for 7 days free, no problem. If you don't like it, you cancel. There aren't any issues. But this is the second week of having the Biblical Hebrew audio course. Thank you so much, Nehemia, for being such a tough teacher. I went through Hebrew at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. They taught me Hebrew so that I could impress the congregation. Here's this word. It's from the Hebrew. And, the preacher gets up and does that. Then all of a sudden, I see you reading from a Bible, and I'm thinking it's English because you're translating it in English, and I look over your shoulder, and it's Hebrew, and it caused envy and jealousy in me because I thought, how can he be reading the book that I'm supposed to understand, and I can't even interact with it that way? And over these last 13 years, I at least can interact a little bit, and now I want to share that with the people so they can do the same thing. So be it. So be it. Anything else on this section?
I think we got it.
Okay,
awesome. Can you end in prayer, please?
I will end in prayer, and then we're going to put you to bed. I don't know if we're ever going to make it to the Purim party tonight. Father, thank you for us being here. Thank you for the challenges that are in front of us, what we do know and what we don't know. Help us to be like the wife who accepts it. And even in Manoah, what he did do is he prayed and said, give me more. I need to understand more exactly, because if this is you, I want to know exactly what I'm supposed to do. So for all of us that are listening and all of us that are going through this, we help us to be people that hear it, understand it, and then live it. And we thank you in advance for what you're going to continue to do as we interact with your word, your will, and your way. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to Prophet Pearls with Nehemia Gordon and Keith Johnson. For more information, please visit nehemiaswall.com and bfainternational.com.